Not seeing it. I'm giving it a second. Oh, I am on. Okay, I'm on. Hi, everybody. It's Quarantine Life here at GovsRadio.com. GovsRadio, you can, if you have a Fire Stick, you have smart TV, you have an Apple TV, or any of those smart things. Thanks, Felix. Or any of those smart things, you can go on an app called Boxcast, download that app, and you can find GovsRadio.com and all of our shows there. Isn't that nice? Thank you, Sally. Sally says I'm on. Thank you. John Blenn is watching. Hi, John. Hope you're doing well. Hope everybody's doing well. It is Quarantine Life. Forgive me for starting late. Forgive me if I am a little haphazard here. I am filling in last minute. I am hosting Quarantine Life on Thursday, but Steve Kaminsky, who was from Steve Squared here at GovsRadio.com, he was supposed to host today, and he had to cancel last minute, so I jumped in. Hello, Bonnie. Hello, Doug King. Doug King, sorry, you had a friend of yours pass away, so my condolences. Hello, Kenny. So Quarantine Life, let's see. Let's see if I get this right. Quarantine Life, it's like right above my head. Is that where it is? I think. Am I going the wrong way? No, yeah, I think it's right here. Yes, it is. All right, now I'm looking at myself on the screen. Yes, right there. Quarantine Life. Look, I'm holding it up. Okay, that was bad. Bonnie lost her electricity. Sorry to hear that. So Quarantine Life is a show here at GovsRadio.com that is meant to show you guys how the Govs Radio hosts are passing the time, how they're getting through this quarantine life. Hello, Sam Darby. Hello, Carla. Hello, Joan. Hello, Jeff. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, hello, Danielle. That's what Quarantine Life is all about, just to show everybody what the Govs Radio hosts are doing to pass the time while in quarantine, how they're getting through, how they're staying sane. Hi, Sally. And this is how I'm doing it. I'm stuck in this place. Sally and I are the only ones in here, so we keep coming in. But that's really how I've been spending a lot of my quarantine time, is working on this place. I've been in contact with a lot of the hosts, trying to get them set up for their Quarantine Life shows. Hello, Rich Rada. Yeah, this is my quarantine life, says Jeff. But that's how I'm spending a lot of time, working with the hosts, getting them set up for their quarantine life, getting them set up to continue doing their shows. And, of course, I say I'm doing that, but I'm really, compared to Mike O'Toole, I'm not doing a thing. Mike O'Toole's the one that's busting his ass to make it all happen here for you guys so that you can keep seeing the hosts. I hope we're making a difference. I hope Govs Radio makes a difference with, bringing you content, bringing you shows, in hopes that maybe you guys are having, some kind of laugh, at least bringing a smile to your faces or giving you some kind of sanity as you go through this stuff. So this is Quarantine Life. Like I said, I'm kind of hosting last minute. So forgive me if I'm kind of all over the place. I've been trying to think of what to talk about because everybody's explaining what they do in quarantine. Like Felix was on the other day, and he was showing a lot of things from his house. He was in his kitchen. Mike O'Toole gave you a whole tour of his house. You saw his kids, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Danielle Asher was singing for you, and Graz and the guys, they were just doing what they normally do, is pick on each other. So a lot of my time is spent on Govs Radio. Sally and I and Gina, we spend a lot of time working on Govs Radio, trying to get more and more content, more and more new ideas, fresh ideas. With Mike O'Toole, we discuss improvements here in the studio that we can make. So a lot of my time is around that, which, thank goodness, is really not, pretty much my normal life anyway. The only difference is Knock 'em Dead Comedy, which is where I make more money than I do here. Knock 'em Dead Comedy, that Eric owns, and I run with him, Eric Shevlin. of course, that's we do live dinner theater shows, murder mysteries and game shows and variety shows. That unfortunately is not running, obviously. So, we're feeling the financial hit from that. Plus, it just not getting out. Not getting out sucks, right? I mean, looking forward to quarantines life too. Quarantines. Hello, Susan. Hello, Carol. Hello, Al. Hello, Lisa Kama. Hey, Lisa, nice to see you. Can I make fun of the conspiracy nuts on the fake news, folks? No, Ken, I think you did that already. And that was enough. So one thing I was thinking about talking about, this is not my first quarantine life. Again, I'm hosting last minute, so I'm a little unprepared, so bear with me here. But I was thinking on the way here, things to talk about. You know what? First, I'll show you my kids. Everybody seems to be doing that, because the idea of the show is to show their home life, right? What they're doing at home. And that's actually been one of the nice things about, there's positives to everything, And one of the positives, I am home more. So I do get to be home more with the kids, which is really nice. There's my daughter, Sammy. That's my daughter. Let me find a picture of my son. Okay, here's my son and I, Zachary. You may have seen Zach. He's been in here. He was on when I used to have that Tuesday night show on Facebook. He was on there a lot. Here's Sally with her boys. And take a look at this picture. Sam, you've seen. He's engineered some shows in here. Jackie the Joke Man calls him Leo because he thinks he looks like Leonardo DiCaprio. But if you notice, Kevin, he was the one with the really big head. And I don't know, I don't know how that happened, but he's got a really big head. So those are our kids. So, yeah, we get to spend a lot more time with the kids, which is really nice. We've been enjoying that. We've been, playing games and watching movies together and just enjoying the quiet time at home. So that's a positive to all this. Hopefully we can just enjoy this time, right? And not. I just wish there wasn't so much worry about when it's going to end. How am I going to pay my bills? All that. Am I going to get sick? Are my loved ones okay? That if we had some kind of crystal ball to tell us, how things are going to work out. Because I would like to enjoy the time more and not worry so much. How about applying my submarine life to this? Kenny, get your own quarantine life. You know what? Maybe Kenny, I might have a quarantine life show for you, Kenny. I'm a little scared to see what you do, but hello, Tom Galati. Hello, Will Wagner. Hello, Tina. All right, so I wanted to show you my kids and Sally's kids. But one thing I was thinking about on the way here, again, I'm hosting last minute, so I was, trying to think just within the past, I just found out at noon, or actually about 12:30 today that I was definitely hosting. Then having internet trouble, so I didn't really have much time to prepare. So most of my preparing was on the way here, 10 minutes before I went on. I was actually thinking about this is actually not my first time being quarantined. Or living a quarantine lifestyle, I should say. Back in 2002 into 2003 is when and we make a lot of jokes about this. That's my leg. We make a lot of jokes about the prosthetic. But I lost a leg to cancer. I had osteosarcoma back in 2002. I was diagnosed October of 2002. I think it was Columbus Day or the day after Columbus Day, something like that. 2 weeks later, the week of Halloween that year was my first round of chemo. So I was kind of quarantined that way because, same thing with this virus. You can't catch anything because your immune system's low, you're weak, you're sick all the time. The chemo just knocked me out. Thank you, Sally. Sally says, I'm the best dad ever. To all you other dads out there, you're second. So the chemo, for all you cancer survivors out there, my hat's off to you. It's quite the experience. I laid in bed all the time. I basically, the first 3 months were the worst. Actually, 4 months, because I did chemo for 2.5 months. Then we before we amputated, we tried to save the leg. I had osteosarcoma. I had a tumor wrapped around the outside of my femur bone. The femur, for those of you who don't know, is the bone that connects the knee to your hip. So, that bone had a tumor wrapped around the outside of it. So we tried to save that leg first. I did a little over 2 months of chemo, which again, I'll never forget that first week of chemo. I remember waking up, I think it was on the third day. I was at NYU in New York City. I had to go every other week, and I had to stay there for 5 days. They had this one floor. I don't know if it's still this way. It was like this back then. They had this one floor that was set up like a hotel for all their cancer patients that had to stay. Because I had the chemo pumped into me 24/5 instead of 24/7. It was 24/5. So I couldn't leave. So, and like the other patients in the same situation as me, we stayed in this one with this one floor that was just set up like rooms. It was actually beautiful. 2 beds, a TV, a little refrigerator, shelves, a couch, nice view of the water from the windows. It was actually really nice, but sick as a dog. I remember I think it was the third day, waking up, and the first 2 days I was like, oh, this is a piece of cake. I can handle this chemo stuff. The third day, as soon as I woke up, I was like, whoa. And I remember lifting my head off the pillow to get up. First of all, getting up was, I was dizzy. But then I looked down at the pillow, and it was covered in hair. I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Back then, I had hair. So, and it just, went from there. So I was kind of quarantined, between being at the hospital and being in this room by myself. We were allowed visitors. It's not like I was contagious. My brother spent a lot of time there. My wife at the time, she had the kids at home, so she was mostly at home with the kids. My kids, and that's where I showed you my kids. They were, my son was a month away from turning 2. So thank God my kids don't remember any of this. But I was hardly home. I wasn't there for them. So my wife at the time, she had to stay really with them, but she came up as much, as often as she could. Some friends came to visit, but there was a lot of time alone, and there was a lot of times you just didn't want anybody there. So you were kind of plus, and you couldn't do anything. It's not like you were, you had the energy or desire to go out or do anything. So it was very similar to a quarantine life, kind of like what we're doing now. So I did that for a little over 2 months, and then we had this surgery to save the leg. They took the femur out. It was a 13-hour surgery. January 3rd, January 5th, something like that, of 2003. 13-hour surgery where they cut my whole leg open. They sliced right down the right side, opened up, took the femur out, and they put in cadaver bones. They took pieces of bones from other parts of my body, metal rods, screws, wires, farm animals, midgets. I think they just threw in garbage from the curb, whatever they can throw in there. So that enhanced the quarantine type life because I couldn't walk, and I couldn't really do anything. I was for that surgery, I was in the hospital for a little over 3 weeks. And then forget it, couldn't walk, for months. Couldn't really do much of anything, life as it was gone. I couldn't drive. It was my right leg, so I couldn't drive. And it's just it was a tough life because, you're on crutches I was on crutches. Like I said, I couldn't move at all, but eventually learning to get by on crutches. So you couldn't carry anything. You couldn't do anything with the kids. You couldn't drive. If it's raining out or something, you're going to slip on crutches. So you're very terribly limited. This kind of sucks now, what we're doing now. But I'll tell you, thinking about that, maybe, I don't know. I was miserable then. Back now, it doesn't seem so bad because I get to enjoy my kids a little bit. Still have some pain, and I'm obviously not as, I'm a lot limited than I used to be before cancer, but believe me, at least I can walk, at least I can do a little bit here and there. So I was, and I ended up having many surgeries, and I had to continue with that chemo after the surgery. So then I had to, all the chemo, they had a port. So the chemo came out here, and then, to the pole with the machines and everything that's hooked up to it. So the pole, I don't know why, but when I was in the hospital going back to these treatments after my surgery, I was on a wheelchair. I don't know why they just didn't have the pole attached to the wheelchair, but they didn't. They had the pole was separate, it has its own set of wheels. So I would put it in between my legs and just, push it with my waist as I'm working the wheelchair. Or I would roll with one hand and push the pole and kind of switch back and forth. It was fun, but it was the biggest pole I ever had in between my legs. I got a lot of phone numbers. So that was my life for a long time where I could hardly do anything. They told me originally that I would be on crutches for about 9 months to a year. And they said that, the cadaver bone would, fuse with my bone and everything would go back to normal. Like it never happened, I was told. Well, I did eventually get to driving again it was about a year. Yeah, it was a little shy of a year. Started driving again. But it wasn't easy because, I'm trying to reach over with my left foot, trying to reach the pedals. And it's different. But then, but I was on crutches for a year and nothing was improving. I ended up being on crutches for 3 years, having a few surgeries, every once in a while, trying to fix this, because it wasn't taking. The bones weren't fusing. I was in pain. Nothing was working. So we kept having surgeries. And of course, with each surgery, I'd be laid up again for a month or 2 months, whatever it was. So quarantined every time. Eventually asking for the amputation. So it was just a mess. They were adding things. They were removing things. The metal rods were breaking. The screws were breaking. It was just a mess. So we had the amputation. They were able to cut out all that mess. I mean, it was just a disaster. So then that was some more time in a quarantine lifestyle where, getting the leg amputated. Again, on crutches for a few months before you get your first prosthetic, then learning how to, move around with a prosthetic. And then I went, and it's miserable. I feel for people if, God forbid that's their life all the time, man. I don't know how they did it. I don't know how they do it. It was tough, not having that freedom of just jumping in the car to run to 7-Eleven for crying out loud, just to do something. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And I honestly don't even think about it much because it was such a dark time. But this quarantine lifestyle of not being able to go anywhere or do anything, it kind of reminds me of that. The first time I drove after getting my amputation, a buddy of mine had picked me up. It was a work-related dinner function. And a buddy, I wasn't driving yet. I was maybe 2 months on a prosthetic, which isn't a lot of time on a prosthetic. It's really a never-ending thing with a prosthetic. I go for updates and tune-ups all the time, and things get changed and switched around. So I went with a buddy of mine who I worked with said, we got to go to this function. I'll pick you up so you can get there. I was like, oh, super. This friend will remain nameless just in case he gets in trouble. Even though this was years ago. This was 2006, January of 2006. Picks me up. He ends up getting hammered at this party. And at the time, he was driving one of those big macho pickup trucks. Like these guys, these guys that carry rifles and ammunition and survival gear and in the back of with the giant flags. It was like one of those big manly trucks. They're ready for something. I don't know what they're ready for, but they're ready. So this guy, he picks me up. He gets hammered. He was a mess. He was wasted. And he turns to me. He's like, I can't drive, man. I can't drive. And I didn't really see him much at the party. It was one of those where you ever see these people that they get drunk or something and you don't know they're drunk? And then all of a sudden, like that, there's this mess. Like you didn't even see it coming. So I wasn't really paying attention. And he seemed fine throughout the whole party. It wasn't until we were leaving. All of a sudden, he just went from, normal. And all of a sudden, his shirt's hanging out. He's drooling. I can't drive. I was like, what? I can't drive. I was like, he hands me the keys. He stumbles into his truck. I'm like, holy crap. So not only, he couldn't have like a little Toyota Corolla, a big wheel. So I'm like, holy crap, I'm going to drive. I haven't driven at that point. Well, the amputation was probably almost 6 months prior. So it was at least 6 months. It was definitely the first time driving since getting a prosthetic. So now I'm reaching around the prosthetic with my left leg, trying to drive. It was interesting. It was definitely interesting. But luckily it was mostly highway driving and it was late at night, so there weren't a lot of cars on the road. But that was it for me. That was my big moment. Like, holy crap, I can drive. And I made it back. I made it back to my house. It was only maybe a 15-minute drive. And I didn't have any problems. It was total smooth sailing. So that's when I was like, oh, this is great. That was my freedom. That's when I realized, I can get out. I can drive. I can do things. And that was it. I was back in my car the next day, and I was out, and I was doing things. Eventually, life got easier with the prosthetic, and life got back to normal as best as possible. I mean, that's the thing with this thing now. You want to get back to normal, but what's going to be normal? Our handshake's going to be gone. Is social distancing permanent? Are we going to be waiting outside to go into the supermarket permanently? Our baseball stadium's going to remove seats so that we're sitting 6 feet apart. You don't know. But it was the same for me at that point. Being able to drive again and living with a prosthetic, it was good enough to just be living again. There were certain things like running. I really miss running. I'm not a big jogger, obviously, or a big runner, but just like silly, small things like, chasing your kids around the house to beat them. To play with them. Running. So just running or running with the dog or running to play Frisbee or softball. It's that kind of thing I miss a lot. But you end up not really, you miss it, but it doesn't really take away from your life. It doesn't bother you that bad because, again, life could have been so much worse. I could have died from cancer or now with quarantine. Thankfully, this virus does have a 97.5 survival rate. So most of us are surviving. Those of us that get it are surviving it. So so things will get better and things will be okay. So there's a lot of parallels to my time there and this. And I'm trying to enjoy it more. Like Saturday at Sally's house, Sally has a basketball hoop on the side of her house. So my daughter and I were taking some shots. The boys came out for a little while and played around too, but my daughter loves basketball, so that was nice. I'll never forget the first time I went out on the prosthetic, like on my own. I took the family to a friend's birthday party, and it was nice. It was like it was getting back to normal and hanging out with the kids, and I was able to go somewhere out in public without worrying about how am I going to move around on crutches? Am I going to hit something? Will it be easy to maneuver? Like now, I was just able to go, like like it used to be. So it was nice. So it was really nice. Let me go back and read some of these comments here. Wow, I lost a lot of viewers. I guess my cancer story is boring. Sorry. Mike Hogan's watching. Hi, Mike. Hey, Ben Rizzuti. Hey, Daryl. Ryan Proch. Ryan Prossi. Saw something great the other day. At the local high school, kids parked their cars in a circle sitting on the roofs talking. Hear of anything else? Simple socializing. That is cool. That is cool. And I know a lot of people are doing the drive-bys. And Tom Galati said that for Easter he went out. I forget, Tom, did you go was it your parents? And you just parked outside and you saw other people outside. We also we also do that. We have some friends of ours that we meet up with. They either just come to the house or we meet them in a park. But we stay the 6 feet. So we either walk with them in a park and get our exercise, or we just, last week they just came over and we sat in the front yard. They brought their own chairs, so we just sat in the front yard. And it was last Thursday. It was a beautiful day. So yeah, we're able to get, we're able to get some socializing and some fun in that way. Did you get a daily sponge bath? Yes, I did, Jeff. I got a daily, not daily, almost, yeah, it was daily sponge bath in the hospital. 99.9% of the time, they were 300-pound black women that gave me the sponge baths. I have a feeling you would probably like that, Jeff. So, what you went through shows why you are so strong and caring now. Why, yes, I am. Parts from China are just horrible. No more handshaking. Stop it! I want a handshake. Really puts things into perspective. Such a warrior. Thank you, Carol, and hello, Zestos. I did bring something with me, and again, planning, so last minute to do this. Oh, Felix thought it was a good story. Thanks, Felix. And I gained a few viewers back. I see. Cool. But one thing I did bring with me in trying to prepare for this last minute. Well, again, I felt like I was quarantined a lot. Yeah, Felix can relate. Yeah, I'm sure. I know you can. I know you've been through some heavy stuff. And I hope things are just going to improve for you as time goes on. Don't take those numbers to heart. That has been typical of all QL shows. I know it's typical of all the shows. You can't. I'm messing around. But thank you, Daniel. Thank you for that. So last minute preparation. I did manage to grab a couple things when I was, kind of quarantined my first time around with cancer. I mean, what else? And this was before social media. There was internet, but there weren't iPads, there weren't tablets. People still had home computers. You didn't have everything on your phone at that time. Again, 2003, 4, 2. So I didn't have internet really to pass the time. I spent a lot of time in bed just sleeping. Plus, I was in pain a lot too, so you have no desire to do much. I mean, even breathing hurts. Melissa Etheridge, Danielle Asher is a big Melissa Etheridge fan, as am I. She has a song called "Breathe." It hurts when I breathe because she went through a big cancer battle, Melissa, and that's so true, man. It's so true. There wasn't anything you could do that didn't hurt. So anyway, though, what I tried to do a lot. I've always been a big music lover. I always, just always trying to pass. So that's what I did a lot of times, trying to pass the time. I've always been a big music lover, but I think I got into it even more because that's all I had back then. No internet, no anything. So it was just music and TV. So I watched a lot of movies, but I don't know. Movies wasn't really doing it because even watching a whole movie, an hour and a half to 2 hour movie sometimes wasn't ideal. Either you were drugged up and you wanted to go to sleep, or you were just in pain, so you wanted to get drugged up and go to sleep. Where music, you can listen to an album. Most albums are 45 minutes to an hour, and that just seemed to be better. Plus, I can close my eyes and still enjoy it. So music became even bigger in my life. And I think even now, this day of streaming and iTunes and digital. Almost everybody uses their computers or their mobile devices for their music. I don't. And I think that's why, because when I had cancer and when I was awake, I would read the albums and I would enjoy the artwork and the photographs and the liner notes and the words to the songs. And I got to know, a lot of names, not just Billy Joel, but I got to know the guys that were making the music with him. And I would see their names on other albums. I'm like, oh, that's the guy. And I really just started to develop a huge appreciation. I mean, I did already. I've always had an appreciation for music and all types of live entertainment, theater, and even sports. But I really just felt a connection to music at that time. And it still sticks with me now. And so I like to have the physical stuff. Because I just developed this big love of reading, the words and who's doing what. And I do the same with movies. I'll read the credits. and I'll get to know a lot of the character actors, and I love hearing, as an actor myself, I love talking to people who've done background work, because that's been the extent of my movie experience. I've done some background work, so I love the whole life and just hearing all about it. So, and that, I guess that's kind of like why it's like a thrill for me to get to know guys like Liberty DeVito and Billy J. Kramer and get to know these people. So I love the creative process. I love talking to them, hearing about what they do. So I have my digital library on a computer and stuff, but I still like the album. I still like holding it. I still like reading it. I have 6,000 CDs in my collection, not to mention DVDs. I also have concert DVDs and movies and home movies. That's probably in the thousands too. But CDs, I actually have over 6,000 CDs. And when I was sick with cancer, probably at that time, I probably had maybe 3,000. And I'm telling you, I listened to every single CD because I was laid up for a total of 3 years between the chemo and then the surgeries, trying to fix the leg and heal the leg, and then the amputation. So it was a total of 3 years of being laid up for the most part. I would say at least 75% of the time I was laid up for those 3 years. So I listened to every CD I owned back then. And I remember a friend of mine actually saying to me, like, "Oh my God, look at all these CDs. How do you find the time to listen to them?" It's like, well, because I'm not doing anything else. And then she said, "Well, look at all these. If you sold all these, you could buy a car." Okay, maybe you can, but when you're going through something like that, and even I think something like this, the price tag isn't always the bottom line. And I've made a lot of friends through music. Like I said, I have a lot of musician friends. My appreciation of Billy Joel music is what led to my friendship with Elio Pace, who's probably my very closest friend now. He has been for almost 5 years now. And acting too. I've made some great friends who are actors, like Sal and Eric. Eric and I became close friends through performing. And he's one of my closest friends, and we've done this together. We've run a comedy troupe together. I've had some of the best experiences in my life with Eric and with Sal Katura and everybody that's ever been in the dinner theater that I've been a part of. Even those of you I don't talk to anymore. I've had great experiences with you guys. The Asher Babes rule, says Felix. You're awesome, Tony. Hey, glad you shared the story. I knew it through Frank's perspective when you were going through it, says Danielle. It's a shame you lost your sense of humor back then, too. Hey! Joan says, those Walker boys have had a tough time. Yeah, not bad. So you can't put a price tag on the friendships, and getting cancer puts a different perspective on things. This quarantine, I would hope, puts a new perspective on things. That it's not always about the almighty dollar. And I think that's why I've been so enamored with what Governor Cuomo has done, the job he's done, because it's not about politics right now. It's not about Republican, Democrat, whatever party you're on. It's about humanity. It's about reaching out and helping out. Oh, Joey Cola. Exactly my point here. Joey Cola, because of working here. I've known Joey a long time, but just in the past year or two from working here, I've gotten to know him really well. I consider us to be very close friends, and I admit, getting a little starstruck in the beginning because it's holy shit, it's Joey Cola. He was always one of my favorite comedians before I even met the guy. But now it's more of just, what a great guy. It really is that simple. And you can't put a price tag on that stuff. I don't care if I ever make any money here in this radio station, I don't care how much it is. I became close friends with Joey Cola. I've met the Tim Gages, the Carrie Caravises, the Steve Belangers, the Chris Montes. I can go on and on and on. Chris Roaches, the Susan the Spicy Psychic, Eric Taglione, just super, super people. And forgive me whose name I'm forgetting, but it's like that, through acting. It's like that through music. sports. You know, I've made some great friends, and that's what it's all about. And that's what surviving cancer meant to me, and that's what this quarantine thing is all about. Hello, Laura Gaskin. Hello, Derek. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling here. I feel like I'm rambling. So I'll quickly show you some of the... I brought a couple albums with me that I wanted to just show you guys. Some albums that really I did appreciate when I was in my own personal quarantine when I had cancer. And the first one I'm going to show you, this album I discovered when I was a kid. It's The Who's Tommy. Do you ever see? It just, I don't know if you really like music. Did you ever see the movie Almost Famous, where the kid, where the main character, you know, his sister, she moves out of the house and she leaves him a bunch of albums to listen to. And this is one of them. There's a sticky note. This is, you know, listen to this one with earphones on. It will blow your mind and change your life. Something like that she wrote. That's exactly what happened to me when I was a kid. This album just blew me away. I've never heard anything like it. I just love this album, The Who's Tommy. And oddly enough, Tommy's last name is, the character Tommy in this story, his last name is Walker. Tommy Walker, which was my father's name, Tommy Walker. Or Tom. I don't know what he went by. But just a super album, just a tremendous album. I feel like this is teaching our kids a lesson. More things like less choices for dinner, just like when I grew up. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not really doing much comedy today, but that's not the, you know, we're supposed to be just talking about our quarantine life. So I hope this is going well. I hope you guys are enjoying it. But all right, here's my next album, The Beatles, most commonly known as the White Album. This, to me, just sums up the Beatles, this album. There's a lot of great tunes on here, like Dear Prudence and Back in the USSR and Birthday, Blackbird. You know, you got your rockers, you got your ballads, but which, again, the Beatles are just so good at it. But there's also just weird stuff in here, too, which they love to throw in weird things once in a while just to mess with your head a little bit. And this album's full of them. And I love weird stuff. It just makes me laugh. Like Revolution 9. If you've never heard Revolution 9, go on YouTube and check it out. It is the weirdest thing you'll ever hear in your life. I love it. I love it. So there you go. The Beatles. This one. Billy Joel, Nylon Curtain. You know, being from Hicksville, being on Long Island, everybody, you know, Billy Joel's our boy. But especially from Hicksville, you feel like you own him. So, of course, I always loved Billy Joel growing up. But the Nylon Curtain, it just sounds like it's the Beatles, and it's just incredible. Same thing. You know, you knew Billy Joel for The Stranger and Just the Way You Are, Moving Out, and fun. You may be right. You know, just fun, great tunes. But this just brought him up a level. And there's great tunes. She's Right on Time, Allentown. But then you hear Pressure, and you're like, whoa, what was that? You know, and Goodnight Saigon, which is like, holy crap, what an emotional tune. So I just love that album. All right. Another one, which probably a lot of people don't know, that's Lindsey Buckingham. Lindsey Buckingham was in Fleetwood Mac during their height, you know, Rumors and Go Your Own Way and all those songs. Lindsey Buckingham was a guitar player. That's one of his solo albums called Out of the Cradle. Same thing. Had some weird bits on it. Had some great pop tunes. Has some great rockers. Lindsey Buckingham, to me, is just so underrated. Nobody plays guitar like him. And he puts out some weird stuff. He puts out some heavy rockers. But that guy, nobody can craft a good song like he can. You know, you take Billy Joel, you take John Mayer, take Sting, and Paul McCartney, and that's Lindsey Buckingham, in my opinion. So, one other album, which I don't have with me, is an Eric Clapton box set called Crossroads. It was a 4-CD set, came out in 1988. It was the first CDs I ever bought. I was just starting to get into Clapton at that time. And when I bought that set, it just blew me away. And now I have everything Clapton's ever done. It was so, I listened to it so much because it was the first CDs I bought. I was one of the first people in my school to have a portable DVD player. I remember, you know, Craig Mannion coming up to me asking to borrow the player so he can listen to the Joshua Tree. And that's how I heard Joshua Tree for the first time through Craig Mannion. Just loving the CD player, loving the CDs, and just listening to Clapton over and over. So a huge Clapton fan. I love that album. And if you know the album I'm talking about, it's called Crossroads. It's a drawing of Clapton playing the guitar. Years later, just maybe, I don't know, six years ago, give or take, through Elio, I met a man named Larry Russell, who's been on the phone with us here. Larry Russell used to play bass for Billy Joel back in the very early 70s. Elio and I went out to dinner with Larry, who had his friend with him, Mitch Canner. Mitch Canner used to work for record companies back in the 60s and 70s, and I think early 80s. Yeah, in the 80s too, sorry. 'Cause it turned out he designed the Crossroads album. So that was just, and he showed me, like pictures of himself with Clapton and some of the rough sketches for the album cover and stuff. So that was just a big personal thrill to meet that guy and talk to him and hear his stories. And I still talk to him on Facebook. Very funny man, Mitch Canner. So that leads me to some other music I'd just like to share with you. What I thought I would do, those were albums that got me through the time, back when I was sick. And now, just to show you how things have come around through the years. And again, just kind of learning from surviving cancer. Hello, Georgia. Just, through surviving cancer, you get to, make friends and just learn that life is more about money and working and just enjoying what you're doing, whether it's a job or your family, friends, whatever it is. So now going through this quarantine life, trying to listen to more music again and just appreciating the people around me. So first I'll show you Elio. This is Elio's Elvis Presley live album. I mentioned it on the show the other day. Elio was just nominated for 2. Hello, Chris and Tinsley. Nice to see you. Just nominated for 2 Independent Music Awards for this album. It's a live concert he did. Just him and a drummer doing Elvis tunes. It's amazing. And again, Elio's one of my all-time favorites and and my best friend. So go check that out. I'm showing you albums I'm listening to now by friends. So I'm trying to appreciate my friends while enjoying music. I'm trying to get all full circle here from the cancer days to now and showing all the parallels. I still feel like I'm rambling, so I apologize. All right, so I'll make this quick. Joe DeJesus. Grab Joe DeJesus' album. Instant Gratification. Joe DeJesus, part of our GovsRadio family. He's returning tonight on GovsRadio with his show Jam. Looking forward to that. When our show first started here on Knock 'em Dead Comedy on GovsRadio, one of our first guests in the early days was Danny Keene. Great album. What a tremendous talent Danny is, and such a funny guy. And then a little weird connection. On one of his albums, first off, he has Richie Cannata, who played with Billy Joel, who's a friend of ours now. But check out Danny Keene. But then to make this even weirder, got to know Danny. He came to the studio here. He's played, and he's just so good. But then one night, Sally and I went to go see him play, and I see this guy hanging out, and he sees me and he waves. We talk for a minute. All of a sudden, it hit me. This is a guy I used to work with at the phone company, and years and years ago, my old life. And his last name is Keene, and I never put it together. I was like, "Holy shit! Are you related, to Danny? Danny's his son." Crazy. So anyway, here's an old album of a band that's not together anymore, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. It's called Frame of Mind. This is an album by Paul Costello. Paul Costello, he's been doing a lot of coronavirus parodies on Facebook, so go check him out. He's also in this We Are the World thing. Did you guys see that? All these Long Island musicians, they just released a video today where they, they re-recorded We Are the World. They each did their own part from their home. All the instruments, all the singing, and it came out really well. Paul Esposito's in that, so check him out. And check out that We Are the World thing. It's really cool. Speaking of local bands that aren't together anymore, Rhythm Ritual. This is my oldest friend, Bobby Donahue. They're called Rhythm Ritual. They put out two albums. Again, this is ancient stuff. It's been like 20 years since they broke up. But Bobby is my oldest friend. I've known him since I was 2, and he's just a great guy. So that's his album. I'm trying to enjoy it. Some more recent friends that we've gotten to know. There's two albums here. Two albums here by the Johnny Mac Band. I'll just hold them like this. The Johnny Mac Band. Johnny Mac and the guys, they were in here once, and Johnny himself was on the Tuesday night with Tony Facebook show we used to have. What a great band. Just a great, great band. If you like kind of old style rhythm and blues, rock, good guitar picking, just good musicianship. They're just a great band. The Johnny Mac Band. So go look for them. They're just tremendous. Of course, we have this, Cindy Bradley. This particular album is called Natural. She's got a bunch of albums out. She plays trumpet. It's like smooth jazz music. Great music for just mellowing out late at night, or just good music for when you're eating dinner, enjoying good conversation. Plus, one of the funniest people you'll ever meet in your life. And her husband is David Clark, who's a musician himself. He's also in this We Are the World thing. He plays in a few different Billy Joel tribute bands, songs from the Attic, and then he's also in Lords of 52nd Street. That band features guys who used to play with Billy, and David does Billy's parts. And he's going to be on the Knock 'em Dead Comedy Radio Show tomorrow on the phone. He's great, so look him up and hire him when things are back to normal. But check out Cindy's music in the meantime. She's great. Of course, I got to mention my brother. This is, I think, as far as I know, the only album he's done. It's called Spoonwalk Every Us. It's him and another girl, Ramona. It's called Every Us. All originals. I believe he's working on another original album now, but who knows when we'll see that. Frank's also in this We Are the World thing. Frank's been in here. He's been on everything. And then, of course, we have For Coffee, the Uncle Louie Variety Show. Talk about some friends we've met through comedy here. I mean, these guys are just the best. They're so funny. They're super good guys, very supportive. They've been in here a number of times. Just like Anthony Rodia, they have a very loyal following, a very Italian fan base that they just cater to perfectly, just like Anthony does. And they're just great guys and love their album. They're, again, just very generous, a lot of fun. And then the last album I brought, just because it's Long Island, Harry Chapin. Enjoy Harry Chapin. He's got some great tunes. And they're making a documentary of his life and and just, he was a very giving man, a very charitable guy. So there's a movie being made about that. We had the filmmakers actually in here with us one day talking about the movie. I like a lot of talent here on Long Island, right? A lot of music. Plenty of bands I didn't get to, the Stray Cats, Pat Benatar, Eddie Money, so many people, from Long Island. Just like the acting world too, Lorraine Bracco and Michael McKeon and, just so many people that have come from Long Island. So I always try to spotlight that in my life, or highlight that, support the local stuff. Good Clapton tunes from S.A.B. S.A.B. Stanton Anderson is the best. Just saw them at Farrell's not too long ago. Stanton Anderson. I don't know who that is. Hello, Scott Crosby. Johnny Mac Band is great. Georgia Rose has seen them. Okay. Stanton Anderson Band. I'll have to look them up. I don't know them. My apologies. I'll check them out. All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up here. This thing's probably about to shut down on me anyway. So that's my quarantine life for today. Again, just talking about what I'm doing during this quarantine life, trying to show the parallels to my previous quarantine life, and basically just hoping that, just like the first time I had to do it due to an illness, made it out on the other end, made it out very much okay, to the point where I've been able to kind of put it behind me completely, not let it define me, learned a lot of valuable lessons from it, including, that money isn't always the bottom line. Friendship and enjoying yourself and laughing is what it's all about. And I'm hoping that's what's going to happen here too. Just laughing more, not caring so much about stupid stuff, and just enjoying our time here and getting out on the other side okay. which I'm sure we will. I mean, you read the history books. We got out of the Depression okay. We got out of, a war okay. This will just be something else in the history books, and we'll be okay. But hopefully it's soon. I've had enough. I want this building to have some energy again. I miss the comedians. I miss everybody here in the studio. I love working here, man. I love it. It's had some bad moments too. A lot of bad moments too. I've made some enemies as much as I've made some friends, but I've made a lot more friends. And there's just a lot of great stuff happening in here. So we appreciate your support. We appreciate you guys sticking around and always appreciate the comments. 1978 plus. Before my time? No, that's not before my time. Thank you, Sally says. Sally says, great job. We appreciate the support, the comments, all the comments, all the support. You guys, almost all the shows here are very interactive, so we really rely heavily on you guys. So, I can't say enough how much we appreciate everything you guys do for us. And I hope you keep enjoying the shows. Oh, the Good Rats, that was a good Long Island band too. I hope you keep enjoying the shows here. We're trying hard to bring nothing but good shows to you here, whether it's from some bigger names or just some great local talent. Again, we have a great lineup in here currently, and everybody's working hard to bring a good show during this crazy time. So I appreciate their efforts. I hope you guys do too. And I thank them for entertaining us and keeping a smile on our faces. So, yes, the best is yet to come. We will come out of this better than ever. Very nice. Okay, there we go. I'm signing off. I am doing Quarantine Life again on Thursday. Georgia, you're doing Quarantine Life tomorrow. Have a great time. And I don't know who's up for the rest of the week, but like I said, I'll be back Thursday doing it. Thank you for hanging out with me. My apologies for Steve Kaminsky from Steve Squared. He was supposed to be doing this today. I stepped in last minute because he couldn't do it. So today on Govs Radio, Steve Squared with Steve Kaminsky will be on at 6:30. Jam returns with Joe DeJesu. That returns tonight. It's been a while since he's been here. And then Sally and I are back tomorrow at 11 a.m., the Knock 'em Dead Comedy Radio Show with David Clark on the phone. Looking forward to that. David is one of our closest friends and just a super guy. The Ichabod Crane Band. Felix is just going to keep naming bands while we say goodbye.